since the tragic death of Chester Bennington, rumors have been swirling about what really happened. Here are 20 rumors about Linkin Park's tragic death that were totally true. Let's begin. 20. The band has no plans to perform again.
Was I looking for an answer when there never really was one?
So here's the scoop on Linkin Park's future. After the tragic passing of Chester Bennington in 2017, the fate of the band seemed uncertain, leaving fans with burning questions about whether they would ever hit the stage again or release new music. Now, Mike Shinoda, the talented member with a successful solo career, remains closely associated with Linkin Park. However, despite his thriving solo endeavors, the band essentially met its end with the loss of their iconic frontman. For fans, this has been a colossal disappointment, and the uncertainty surrounding the band's future has only intensified. Even with the 2023 release of Lost Songs from Meteora, the burning question remains: will Linkin Park ever reunite, perform again, or perhaps even hire a new frontman? The answers to these questions have been elusive, and conflicting information has only added to the intrigue. Linkin Park in its various incarnations truly found its identity when Chester Bennington stepped in as the frontman. The post-grunge and hard rock fusion resonated deeply with audiences, propelling the band to unparalleled success for nearly 2 decades. But what about now? In the immediate aftermath of Bennington's tragic passing, Mike Shinoda expressed his reluctance to think about replacing the irreplaceable frontman. However, he vowed to secure a future for the band. Fast forward to today, and fans are still left wondering if Shinoda's stance has evolved. According to Billboard, it seems that Mike Shinoda has remained steadfast in his decision. He has not wavered on the idea of replacing Bennington, and this includes ruling out the possibility of a holograph or AI version of the late frontman. So what's the latest scoop on Linkin Park's comeback? Well, it's been a roller coaster of speculation and anticipation for fans. In April 2020, Dave Farrell, the band's bassist, sent shockwaves through the fan base when he hinted at new music in the works. He claimed that Linkin Park was indeed cooking up something special. Exciting, right? But before we could get too carried away, it turned out that the revelation was about an unreleased gem from the past, a track called She Couldn't, dating back to 1999, featuring Chester Bennington's vocals. This rare find was unearthed as part of the band's 20th anniversary celebration of their groundbreaking debut album, Hybrid Theory. And while fans rejoiced at the chance to delve into the archives, it wasn't exactly the fresh material they were hoping for. Nevertheless, it was a poignant reminder of Bennington's enduring legacy. Then, just when we thought the flames of hope were flickering out, a glimmer emerged in the form of a remix of One Step Closer, released the following year. But alas, it seemed like a fleeting moment of excitement in an otherwise stagnant landscape. Mike Shinoda, ever the voice of reason, took to a live stream on Twitch in 2022 to douse any flames of speculation about a revival. In a candid moment, he laid it out plain and simple, saying, "The only Linkin Park news I have for you is that, yeah, we talk every few weeks. I talk to the guys or some of the guys. And there's no tours, there's no music, there's no albums in the pipeline. Okay, so let me just tell you that. So just keep in your minds that that is not happening." These words hit hard, drawing a definitive line in the sand for Linkin Park's future. Despite the occasional tease of unreleased tracks from their Bennington-era archives, the band has made it clear that there's no grand revival on the horizon. 19. People are furious Chester Bennington's full autopsy was released. Now, let's talk about a grim aspect surrounding Chester Bennington's tragic passing that left many enraged and questioning the ethics of media reporting. In the aftermath of Chester Bennington's untimely death, TMZ, known for its relentless coverage of celebrity news, took things to a new level by publishing the singer's full autopsy report. This move, consistent with TMZ's approach to celebrity suicides, sparked widespread outrage, and for good reason. Initially, TMZ erroneously reported that Bennington had alcohol and ecstasy in his system at the time of his death. Later, they revised their statement, acknowledging that while one blood test initially showed a presumptive positive for MDMA, ecstasy, subsequent tests contradicted this result, ultimately clearing Bennington of drug influence. But the controversy didn't end there. In a subsequent article, TMZ delved into explicit details from the autopsy, including information about Bennington's previous suicide attempt. What's particularly troubling is that this information was retracted from the official report at the request of Talinda Bennington, Chester's wife, who cited marital privilege. It appears she was fully aware that the autopsy report would be made public and aimed to shield her children from these specific and distressing details. The aftermath of TMZ's release of Chester Bennington's autopsy report didn't just end with public outrage. It also shed light on the ethical considerations surrounding media reporting on sensitive topics like suicide. Despite objections and requests for privacy, TMZ persisted in uncovering and disseminating details from the autopsy report that had been retracted. This blatant disregard for the family's wishes added fuel to the fire of public indignation. The question arises, what purpose does reporting on a celebrity's autopsy report serve? While there may be arguments about starting conversations around addiction and suicide if drugs were involved, the manner in which TMZ handled the information went beyond journalistic responsibility. It ventured into the realm of insensitivity and cruelty. Talinda Bennington, understandably furious, took to Twitter to express her anger and frustration. She revealed how the LA County Coroner's Office paraphrased her private conversations with them, only to have the retracted information sensationalized and publicized by outlets like TMZ. Talinda's impassioned tweet highlighted the callousness of such reporting and its impact on grieving families. Furthermore, Talinda's revelation about having to remove her 11-year-old son from school to shield him from hearing details of the autopsy report from his peers underscores the real-life consequences of sensationalized media coverage. 18. He lived in his car. Now let's rewind to the early days of Linkin Park, a time when the band was still struggling to secure a record deal, and Chester Bennington's commitment to his passion put him in a challenging situation. Before the world knew them as Linkin Park, the band, initially called Zero, faced rejection from every major record label. Warner Brothers didn't just pass them over once, they did it 3 times before finally giving them a shot in 1999. However, during this tumultuous period, Chester Bennington found himself in a dire situation. He was essentially homeless and living out of his car. In an interview with Rolling Stone, Bennington vividly described his tough circumstances. His car, a symbol of his struggle, had its own set of issues. It wouldn't go over 35 miles an hour, and 2 lights were burned out. Moreover, he had no money to replace them. Despite these hardships, Bennington's dedication to his craft and the band remained unwavering. Guitarist Brad Delson highlighted the unique sacrifices each band member made during those trying times, but Chester's sacrifice stood out. With so much at stake, his motivation was unparalleled. Delson recalled Bennington telling them, "Guys, I don't think we're working hard enough." This commitment and drive from Bennington played a pivotal role in keeping the band together and motivated during their uphill battle. The journey was far from easy, but the resilience and loyalty of Chester Bennington and his bandmates eventually paid off. Linkin Park's debut album, Hybrid Theory, released in 2001, went on to become the best-selling album of that year, marking a turning point in their careers. This early struggle, marked by Chester's determination, laid the foundation for the band's later success. 17. Warner Brothers wanted him to fire Mike Shinoda.
It can kind of wear you down a little bit, and sometimes, it's nice to have friends who understand.
As the flames of Linkin Park's early success began to flicker, a surprising challenge arose. Warner Brothers, the record label, wanted Chester Bennington to make a drastic decision that would alter the band's dynamic. During the recording of Hybrid Theory, a pivotal album for the band, Bennington and co-founder Mike Shinoda collaborated closely on the lyrics, delving into the raw and emotional themes of Bennington's abusive childhood. However, Warner Brothers reportedly started making demands that didn't sit well with Bennington. The label suggested a shift in focus, proposing that Bennington become the star while downplaying Shinoda's role to that of a keyboard player, or even going as far as firing him. Chester Bennington vehemently opposed this suggestion, expressing his disbelief and frustration. In an interview with Kerrang!, he recounted his reaction to the absurd proposal, saying, "I said, fuck you guys, are you serious? I've only just gotten into the band and you're telling me to start a coup against the guy who writes all the music? It's his band. If he could sing, I wouldn't have a job. You fucking idiots, what's wrong with you?" To make matters even more bewildering, Warner Brothers suggested that Mike Shinoda try to emulate the rap style of Fred Durst, a move that left the band questioning if they were on the same page as the label. In response to these demands, the band took a bold stand, cutting off all communication with Warner Brothers and essentially telling the label to accept their approach or let them go. This decisive move proved to be pivotal for Linkin Park's future. Despite the initial resistance from the label, Hybrid Theory went on to become a massive success, solidifying the band's place in the music industry. 16. Singing made Chester Bennington sick. Chester Bennington's voice, a powerhouse that commanded attention and earned Linkin Park 2 Grammy Awards, was not just a source of musical prowess, but also a hidden struggle for the renowned frontman. Behind the scenes, each powerful note he belted out came at a significant cost, taking a toll on his physical well-being. In June 2003, the band faced a major setback when they were compelled to cancel their European tour. The reason behind this unexpected turn of events was Chester Bennington's health, as he complained of severe back and abdominal pains as reported by BBC News. Bennington's condition led to his hospitalization, where it was revealed that he was suffering from a hiatus hernia. The severity of the condition required surgery, and during his recovery, Bennington opened up about the challenges he faced. Describing the ordeal to .music.com via BBC News, he shared, "There's a lot of burning that happens every once in a while, but I'll be pretty much nauseous forever. It's going to be that way indefinitely." 15. He struggled with Linkin Park's early success.
What am I supposed to do? How am I going to pay for this, dude? How am I supposed to pay for this, Brad? How am I going to pay for this, man? I spent all my money, dude, you know?
Despite pouring his heart out to bandmate Mike Shinoda during the songwriting process, Chester Bennington found himself grappling with a sense of isolation within Linkin Park, which eventually led him down a path of addiction. He candidly connected some of his struggles to his first marriage with Samantha, acknowledging the toxicity of their relationship. "Unfortunately, my ex-wife, Samantha, whom he married when they were so poor he couldn't afford a wedding ring, and I were really toxic for each other. Too young to get married," he revealed to The Guardian. "We were volatile personalities, and even though we helped each other, we were not good for each other, and that brought up other feelings. The challenges escalated during touring, where the easy access to drugs exacerbated Bennington's issues. Recognizing the severity of the situation, his bandmates staged an intervention to address his destructive behavior. Bennington, reflecting on that period, admitted, "I had no idea that I'd been such a nightmare. I knew that I had a drinking problem, a drug problem, and that parts of my personal life were crazy, but I didn't realize how much that was affecting the people around me until I got a good dose of, here's what you're really like. It was a shock. They said that I was two people. Chester, and then that fucking guy. I didn't want to be that guy." In response to the wake-up call, Bennington took decisive action by getting his life together, including a divorce to Samantha. 14. Bennington's divorce brought on suicidal thoughts.
1, go.
Chester Bennington's personal life took a turn for the worse with his first marriage to Samantha Olet, which ended in a challenging divorce in 2005. The aftermath of the separation pushed Bennington to a dark place marked by self-destructive behavior and the contemplation of suicide. "I drank myself to the point where I couldn't leave the house and I couldn't function," he candidly revealed to Kerrang in 2009. The emotional toll of the divorce triggered intense struggles with his mental health, leading him to admit, "I wanted to kill myself." Following this dark period, Bennington found new love and stability with Talinda Bennington, pictured left. Reflecting on their swift connection, he shared with Bullseye, "I knew she was the one pretty instantly. She moved into my place after a week and a half or something like that." The couple married shortly thereafter and expanded their family with the arrival of son Tyler and twin daughters Lila and Lily. Despite the positive developments in his personal life, Bennington continued to grapple with drug and alcohol abuse, coupled with persistent mental health challenges. It was only through the intervention of his second wife Talinda and the support of his Linkin Park bandmates that Bennington confronted his struggles. In a 2016 interview with Louder, he disclosed the pivotal moment when he faced the choice between stopping drinking and dying, highlighting the critical turning point in his battle with addiction and mental health. 13. Chester Bennington's dad wasn't emotionally stable. It all started with Chester Bennington's family dynamics, which challenged his formative years. Following his parents' divorce when he was just 11 years old, Bennington found himself residing with his father, Lee Russell Bennington, a police detective, while his mother pursued her career as a nurse. However, life with his father was far from stable. Bennington candidly described his father as not very emotionally stable, shedding light on the difficulties he faced during this period in a 2008 interview with Kerrang. Recalling the turmoil of his upbringing, Bennington admitted, "It was an awful time. I hated everybody in my family." With his father often preoccupied with demanding work schedules, Bennington felt isolated and overwhelmed. He revealed, "The only thing I wanted to do was kill everybody and run away," underscoring the profound emotional distress he experienced during his adolescence. Seeking solace from the turmoil at home, Bennington eventually returned to live with his mother, Susan Eubanks, at the age of 17. Despite this change in living arrangements, Bennington's emotional struggles persisted, compounded by the onset of substance abuse issues. His tumultuous upbringing and the emotional scars left by his family experiences would later influence his music and contribute to the challenges he faced in adulthood, including battles with addiction and mental health issues. 12. He didn't have the best reaction to One More Light critics.
Were the signs I ignored.
In the days leading up to Chris Cornell's tragic suicide and just 2 months before his own untimely death, Chester Bennington engaged in a candid interview with Kerrang, discussing Linkin Park's latest musical direction with One More Light. The interview revealed Bennington's passionate response to the criticism the band faced for their evolving sound, particularly evident in tracks like Heavy. Addressing the shift in the band's musical style, Bennington acknowledged that their hardcore rock fans might be put off by the new direction. In an unfiltered response, he declared, "We know we're going down a route that a lot of our hardcore rock fans are going to be put off by it maybe." However, he expressed a defiant attitude toward those who didn't appreciate the change, saying, "I think my response was, cool, fuck them, we don't want them as fans anyways." As the conversation intensified, Bennington vehemently defended the band's creative choices and dismissed accusations of a marketing decision for financial gain. He issued a strong rebuke stating, "If you're gonna be the person who says, like, they made a marketing decision to make this kind of record to make money, you can fucking meet me outside and I will punch you in your fucking mouth because that is the wrong fucking answer." In the face of criticism, Bennington asserted that questioning the band's integrity and accusing them of selling out was misguided. He passionately expressed, "Guess what? Calling us a sellout for that purpose is selling out on your fucking excuse as to why you don't like it. You're a fucking pussy." In 2017, Linkin Park released One More Light, marking a significant departure from their rap metal roots that dominated the 2000s. The album, the band's first after an unusual consultation with Harvard Business School, defied expectations and elicited strong emotions from fans, proving its impact by debuting at #1 on the iTunes Music Store charts, displacing heavyweights like Harry Styles, Kendrick Lamar, and Ed Sheeran. Despite its commercial success, the album faced vehement criticism from the band's devoted fan base, colloquially known as soldiers. The lead single, Heavy, especially drew ire for its departure from Linkin Park's signature style, leaning towards a more mainstream pop sound. Chester Bennington, the band's lead singer, was acutely aware of the backlash and took a proactive stance, anticipating and responding to fan discontent. In a series of interviews starting on May 10, 2017, Bennington openly berated Linkin Park's hardcore fans by clinging to the band's early sound, particularly the thrashing style of their breakout album, Hybrid Theory. This album, released in 2000, catapulted the band to stardom, with hits like One Step Closer and In the End, defining Linkin Park's alpha emo sound. Bennington's confrontational approach reflected a defiance against fan expectations and an assertion of the band's autonomy in evolving their musical identity. The drastic shift in style, described as feels bro caterwauling, of their early years to a more pop-oriented sound, challenged the conventional narrative associated with the band. Linkin Park's journey through a midlife crisis, as reflected in One More Light, demonstrated a bold departure from their roots and a willingness to experiment with new sounds. The clash between fan expectations and the band's evolving vision brought about heated discussions within the Linkin Park community, highlighting the challenges of navigating artistic growth in the face of entrenched fan sentiments. Chester Bennington's recent call for fans to move the fuck on from Linkin Park's iconic album Hybrid Theory may seem like fighting words, but it's a rallying cry for the band's evolution. In an interview with Music Week, Bennington passionately defended the band's decision to explore new sounds, urging detractors to refrain from reducing their artistic choices to commercial motives. Linkin Park's trajectory has been anything but conventional. Rising to fame in the early 2000s, they dominated record sales, the US pop charts, and touring, defying expectations and avoiding the fate of becoming a Y2K scream rock novelty act. However, their platinum certification streak saw a hiccup with the release of 1,000 Suns in 2010, a divisive album that diverged from their earlier sound. Producer Mike Shinoda's warning that it's not going to be Hybrid Theory proved prescient, as the band's attempt to evolve met mixed reviews from critics and fans alike. The band's latest album, One More Light, represents yet another departure from their established sound, deviating not only from Hybrid Theory but also from their previous album, The Hunting Party. While the latter leaned toward hoarse male rock vocals and action blockbuster guitar riffs, One More Light ventures into unfamiliar territory, drawing influences from pop and R&B. This radical departure has sparked skepticism among lifelong Linkin Park fans, who may find it challenging to reconcile the band's new direction with their expectations. Songs like Good Goodbye, featuring Stormzy and Pusha T, introduce elements of grime, further widening the gap between the band's past and present. 11. He had an insane cyberstalker.
And I just got to the location, and his housekeeper came out and said that he unfortunately killed himself.
Okay.
In 2006, Chester Bennington and his second wife Talinda fell victim to an alarming cyberstalking incident that left them terrorized by a relentless online harasser. This unidentified female cyberstalker gained control over almost every online account associated with the Benningtons and went to extreme lengths, making unsettling phone calls at random hours. The messages included chilling remarks such as, "I know where your kids are," and "I have complete control of your lives." The situation escalated, prompting a gripping investigation reported by Wired. A former Secret Service agent traced the cyberstalker's activity back to a computer at Sandia National Laboratories, a nuclear weapons facility in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Shockingly, the stalker turned out to be Devin Townsend, a computer technologist at the facility and an obsessive Linkin Park fan. When confronted, Townsend admitted to terrorizing the Benningtons out of boredom, as her job at Sandia took minimal time each day. Following Townsend's arrest, Chester Bennington remained deeply affected by the invasion of privacy. He expressed the profound impact of discovering personal pictures of his children and the stalker's knowledge of their contacts. In an interview with Wired, Bennington shared the emotional toll, saying, "When you find out some total stranger has personal pictures of your kids in the bath, has phone numbers of your parents and close friends and every business associate, listens to every voicemail you've had for the last year, intercepts every email you've written or received, it fuels my desire to make sure this kind of action is viewed as criminal." In response to the incident, Bennington and his wife implemented extensive security measures, including the use of lengthy passwords for all their online activities. Reflecting on the ordeal, Bennington expressed frustration, stating, "And it drives me out of my fucking mind. I want to go back." 10. He was abused as a child. In a candid revelation during a 2008 interview with Kerrang!, Chester Bennington disclosed a traumatic chapter from his childhood. At the vulnerable age of 7, he endured sexual abuse at the hands of an older friend, recounting, "I was getting beaten up and being forced to do things I didn't want to do. It destroyed my self-confidence." The Linkin Park frontman further revealed the internal struggle he faced in the aftermath, expressing fear of judgment and reluctance to speak out. He feared being perceived as gay or untruthful, adding, "Like most people, I was too afraid to say anything. It was a horrible experience." He shared this discovery only later, responding to skeptics who questioned the sincerity of the pain reflected in his lyrics, and it became a pivotal moment in his life. Despite grappling with substance abuse as a coping mechanism for the childhood trauma, Bennington took a unique stance on justice. Rather than seeking revenge, he opted for understanding and empathy upon discovering that his abuser had also been a victim of abuse. Reflecting on this realization, Bennington asserted, "I didn't need revenge." 9. He struggled with drug addiction at a young age. Bennington's parents divorced when he was 11. "It was an awful time," he told Kerrang! "I hated everybody in my family. I felt abandoned by my mom. My dad was not very emotionally stable then, and there was no one I could turn to. At least that's how my young mind felt. The only thing I wanted to do was kill everybody and run away." Bennington eventually found some solace through drawing and poetry, but the biggest boost to his confidence came when he started his first band, Gray Days. That creative outlet proved dangerous. "The problem was, I also found a good way to escape the abuse of my past," he told the Rock magazine. "Getting high, drinking a lot, and having sex with a lot of great girls is a pretty good escape." Bennington's drug use rapidly escalated to the point where he was abusing meth, opium, and LSD before he'd even hit age 17. In a 2011 interview with The Guardian, he said, "I remember that stuff happening to me at that stage, and even thinking about it now makes me want to cry. Oh my God, that was fucking happening to me, and I was just that little, much earlier than I'd remembered. My God, no wonder I became a drug addict." 8. Chester Bennington had a hard time with life. According to an interview with iHeartRadio in February 2017, Chester Bennington bravely opened up about his ongoing battle with mental illness, offering a glimpse into the emotional turmoil that inspired Linkin Park's song Heavy. With raw honesty, he revealed, "I don't know if anybody out there can relate, but I have a hard time with life, sometimes." This candid admission underscored the profound challenges he faced on a daily basis. Bennington candidly acknowledged his propensity to fall back into detrimental patterns of behavior, expressing bewilderment at how he repeatedly found himself in similar predicaments. However, he identified the internal struggle as the root cause, describing his own mind as a bad neighborhood that he should not navigate alone. "If I'm in there, I don't say nice things to myself," he confessed, shedding a light on the inner turmoil that plagued him. "There's another Chester in there that wants to take me down." 7. One of Bennington's last interviews shed light on his mental state.
I know that for me, when I'm inside myself, when I'm in my own head, this place right here, this skull between my ears, that is a bad neighborhood. And
during a memorable interview that was conducted in May 2017, just months before his tragic passing in July of the same year, Chester Bennington provided a glimpse into his enduring battle with depression. Speaking with music journalist Will Lavin, the Linkin Park frontman expressed a pivotal moment in his life where he faced a critical choice. I came to a point in my life where I was like, I can either just give up and fucking die, or I can fucking fight for what I want. Bennington elaborated on the decisions he made to fight for the things that mattered to him: meaningful relationships, love, and enjoyment in both his personal and professional life. He candidly shared his aspirations to find joy in simple pleasures such as being a dad and having friends and just getting up in the morning, acknowledging that these seemingly mundane aspects were a daily struggle for him. In a surprising twist, Bennington credited Linkin Park's 2017 album One More Light as a source of solace and escape during the darkest period of his life. Describing it as a very personal and very therapeutic kind of record, he highlighted the album's role in providing him with an emotional outlet and support during challenging times. 6. Fighting alcohol addiction. In the weeks leading up to his untimely death on July 20, 2017, Chester Bennington faced a personal struggle with alcohol addiction. He confided in his friend Ryan Shuck, revealing that he had only managed to maintain sobriety for 6 months. The fear of relapse haunted him as he sensed the return of old habits and the imminent danger of falling off the wagon. Remarkably, the autopsy report conducted by the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office presented a surprising revelation. Despite Bennington's concerns about alcohol consumption, the report indicated only a minute amount of alcohol in his blood. Additionally, while one blood test initially suggested a presumptive positive for MDMA, ecstasy, 2 subsequent tests failed to detect the drug. The conclusive findings asserted that Bennington was not under the influence of MDMA at the time of his passing. During this challenging period, Chester Bennington was actively engaged in an outpatient treatment program, reflecting his commitment to addressing his addiction issues. Despite these efforts, the music world was shaken by the tragic news of Bennington's suicide on July 20, 2017, a date that held additional emotional weight as it coincided with what would have been Chris Cornell's 53rd birthday. 5. Bennington texted a friend his hour-by-hour battle with addiction. In the final weeks leading up to his tragic death, Chester Bennington reached out to his friend and former Dead by Sunrise bandmate Ryan Shuck, shedding light on the internal struggle he faced. Despite outward appearances, those closest to Bennington were unaware of the profound challenges he grappled with. In August 2017, Shuck revealed to Rolling Stone that Bennington had disclosed his 6 months of sobriety shortly before the fateful day. The intensity of his battle with addiction became apparent as he engaged in a poignant conversation with Shuck through text messages. Bennington meticulously detailed his struggles, offering a harrowing glimpse into an hour-by-hour battle with addiction. The messages conveyed the raw and unfiltered reality of Bennington's daily fight to resist the temptations of addiction. He shared his coping mechanisms and strategies, underscoring the profound nature of his personal struggle. Looking back, Shuck expressed the chilling realization of the depths of Bennington's turmoil, stating, "When I look at it now, it's horrifying. He was telling me down to the detail what he would do in the first hour he wanted to drink. I basically just take it hour by hour every day." 4. He was deeply affected by Chris Cornell's suicide. The impact of Chris Cornell's suicide on May 18, 2017 reverberated profoundly within Chester Bennington. The former Soundgarden and Audioslave singer who had battled depression and drug addiction forged a close bond with Bennington during their joint tours in the late 2000s. On the day of Cornell's tragic death, Bennington took to Twitter to express his grief and pay tribute to his late friend. In a heartfelt note, he conveyed both sadness and gratitude for the special moments they shared, highlighting Cornell's pure and unrivaled talent. Bennington's words reflected the complexity of emotions, joy and pain, anger and forgiveness, love and heartache that Cornell's voice encapsulated. Little did anyone know that these words would foreshadow Bennington's own fate. "I'd like to think you were saying goodbye in your own way," Bennington wrote, expressing his inability to envision a world without Cornell. He concluded with a poignant prayer for Cornell to find peace in the next life. The connection between the two musicians was further underscored when Bennington, alongside Linkin Park guitarist Brad Delson, performed Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah at Cornell's funeral, an emotional homage to a friend and fellow artist who succumbed to the same relentless struggles. 3. He was found dead on Cornell's birthday. On the morning of July 20, 2017, Chester Bennington was tragically found dead in his Los Angeles home, a devastating discovery made even more poignant by the fact that it fell on what would have been Chris Cornell's 53rd birthday. Much like Cornell, Bennington reportedly took his own life by hanging while his wife and 6 children were away, leaving behind a shocked and grieving community of fans and fellow musicians. Mike Shinoda, a bandmate and close friend, confirmed the heartbreaking news on Twitter, expressing both shock and heartbreak. The circumstances surrounding Bennington's death cast a haunting shadow, particularly in light of his deep connection to Chris Cornell, who had also died of apparent suicide just 2 months earlier. Tolinda Bennington, Chester's wife, reportedly informed authorities that he had struggled with previous suicide attempts and was undergoing outpatient treatment at the time of his passing. The eerie coincidence of Bennington's death occurring on Cornell's birthday underscores the profound impact of mental health struggles within the music industry. The bond between Bennington and Cornell ran deep, with Bennington famously performing Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah at Cornell's funeral, a poignant tribute to a friend and fellow artist lost to the same relentless battles. Sources later revealed that Bennington had been profoundly affected by Cornell's passing, with one citing that Chester and Chris were so close and he was never the same after Chris's death. Heart singer Ann Wilson also recalled Bennington's vulnerability following Cornell's suicide, describing him as really a mess and expressing how the news had struck a chord of fear within him. 2. He was alone at the time of his death. The circumstances surrounding Chester Bennington's tragic death on July 20, 2017 are shrouded in heart-wrenching solitude. Law enforcement sources revealed to TMZ that Bennington was home alone when he took his own life, with his family away at the time. The grim discovery was made by a housekeeper who found his lifeless body in his bedroom. According to reports, one of Bennington's bandmates arrived at the house shortly after the police, planning to pick him up for a scheduled photo shoot later that day. The stark contrast between the mundane plans of a photo shoot and the profound loss that unfolded underscores the unpredictability of mental health struggles. Linkin Park, scheduled to embark on a tour with Blink-182 the following week, was faced with the sudden absence of their frontman. Questions lingered about the nature of Bennington's decision, whether it was a meticulously planned act or a spontaneous impulsive choice. Contrary to some expectations, no note was found, leaving friends, family, and fans grappling with the unanswerable question of why. In the days leading up to his death, Bennington had been on vacation with his family, seemingly enjoying quality time with his loved ones. However, amidst this facade of normalcy, he made an unexpected decision to return home for a TV commercial. Tolinda Bennington, his wife, reflected on these perplexing circumstances, expressing the terror of realizing that the signs were not apparent. She mentioned, "This was not a time where we or any of our families suspected this to happen, which is terrifying. We thought everything was okay." Months after Chester Bennington's untimely death, his wife Tolinda provided a poignant glimpse into the complex and often hidden nature of depression. Taking to Twitter, she shared a heartwarming video captured just 36 hours before the frontman's passing. In the clip, Chester is seen laughing, enjoying precious moments with his children and friends, portraying a stark contrast to the inner struggles he was facing. Tolinda captioned the video with a powerful statement: "This is what depression looked like to us just 36 hours before his death. He loved us so much, and we loved him." Linda's reflections on Chester's mental health shed light on the multifaceted challenges they faced as a family. In a May 2019 appearance on ABC News' Life After Suicide podcast, she expressed a belief that Chester had overcome his long-standing battles with substance abuse and depression. "If you knew Chester, you would know that he was in a good place," she said. However, as time passed, Linda acknowledged that there were signs indicating something was amiss, including a sense of hopelessness, changes in behavior, and isolation that became part of their daily lives. In an interview with CNN's Finding Hope, Battling America's Suicide Crisis, Linda delved into the complexities of recognizing these signs. She explained the hopelessness, the change of behavior, isolation. That was all part of our daily lives. She noted that sometimes these signs were more evident than others, and in the case right before his passing, some signs were not apparent at all. Contrary to expectations, Chester seemed to be at his best during those final moments. In honor of Chester Bennington's memory, Linda took proactive steps to raise awareness and support for mental health. She launched the organization 320 Changes Direction, which seeks to change the culture of mental health so that those in need can seek the care they deserve. 1. Bennington hanged himself in his Palos Verdes Estates, California home. On the somber morning of July 20, 2017, the music world was shaken as news broke that Chester Bennington, the iconic lead singer of Linkin Park, had been found dead at his residence in Palos Verdes Estates, California. The 41-year-old, known for his piercing vocals that became synonymous with the band's success, was discovered lifeless in the upstairs area of his home at approximately 9 a.m. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office swiftly confirmed Bennington's death and indicated that it was being investigated as a suspected suicide by hanging. The grim discovery was made by a housekeeper who arrived at the residence shortly before 9 a.m., only to find the music legend alone in his home. Linkin Park bandmate Mike Shinoda expressed the shock and heartbreak felt by the entire music community in a tweet, confirming the devastating news. The circumstances surrounding Bennington's passing highlighted the often silent and solitary nature of mental health struggles, as he was alone at the time of his death. Bennington had recently moved into the two-story residence situated in the 2800 block of Via Victoria, approximately 6 weeks prior to the tragic event. Property records indicated that the home, which sold for $2.4 million on May 26, became the backdrop for the untimely end of a rock icon. Dave Myers, a neighbor residing across the street from Chester Bennington's recently acquired residence in Palos Verdes Estates, shared his impressions of the late Linkin Park singer. Myers described Bennington as a real personable, nice guy. In a poignant twist of fate, just the weekend before Bennington's death, he had suggested the idea of their families getting together for dinner, illustrating the unexpected nature of the tragedy. Police and coroner's investigators were present at the scene, and Bennington's body was removed after noon on the day of the discovery. As the shock of Bennington's suicide reverberated through the public, further details regarding the conditions of his death emerged on December 5. The autopsy and toxicology results shed light on the circumstances surrounding the singer's passing. The findings, reported by TMZ, indicated a trace amount of alcohol in Bennington's system at the time of death. Initial reports had mentioned the detection of MDMA, ecstasy, but TMZ clarified that subsequent tests disproved this, stating that Bennington's blood had tested presumptive positive for the drug. The autopsy report, conducted by Deputy Medical Examiner Dr. Christopher Rogers, aligned with the June suicide report, citing, "Autopsy findings are characteristic of suicidal hanging," and noting a history of suicidal ideation in Bennington. The report also detailed items found in Bennington's bedroom, including a prescription bottle of Zolpidem, the generic version of the sleep aid Ambien, and a small amount of beer. These findings added layers to the complex circumstances surrounding the musician's untimely death. That's all for today. If you found this video informative, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Thanks for watching.